Hey guys, I'm going to demonstrate for you the things that the students in class did, which we unfortunately can't simulate at home or send materials home for you. So it works better if you do it yourself, so you can actually feel what's going on with the devices and all. But this will have to do. Anyway, so ultimately, what we're talking about today, believe it or not, is conservation of energy. Conservation of energy is this idea that the amount of energy in a system never changes. It moves from place to place and it changes form, but the total amount of energy never changes. And this is a very important concept that we're going to look at more closely as we move forward. But since we've been doing stuff with electricity, I'm going to show it to you first with electricity. And like I say, when you actually do this yourself with your own hands, you can feel what's happening, and it actually makes even more sense. But I think I'll be able to communicate it through this video. Anyway, so we're going to talk briefly about how we make electricity. This isn't just us in the lab. This is how we make electricity everywhere. And then we'll be playing with a hand-cranked generator, which looks something like this. You turn the handle, it makes electricity. So we're going to play with that and see some of the things that it does and doesn't do and the way it changes when we ask it to do different things. And then finally, we'll tie it all up and see what this means in terms of conservation of energy. Okay, so let's go to the document camera here so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to start off here by showing you a little voltmeter. And this is a pretty sensitive one, actually, and it detects very small voltages, which is a good thing. Now, this is just a spool of wire. I bought it from the hardware store, so it's just a single piece of wire that goes around and around and around a bunch of times. And then the two ends are exposed here. You can see those. Let's make there we go, clear up the clutter a little bit. Now, I have two wires that are hooked up to the voltmeter. They plug in behind here. And I'm going to hook one of these to each of the exposed wires. So we have a circuit where the electricity, if there is any, goes all the way through the wire in this huge coil of wire in the spool, and then comes out, goes through the voltmeter, and then comes back into the wire again. Now you'll notice there is no battery in this. It's not plugged into the wall or anything. It's just the meter and this spool of wire, and that's it. And as you can see, there's no voltage. That means that there's no current flowing in this particular circuit. However, I also have a pretty powerful stack of magnets here. They stick together rather well, and yeah, this is a pretty strong magnet. And watch what happens when I put the magnet through the spool of wire, through the middle here. Okay, you see the needle moving? I'll turn it over this way so it goes the other way. So you can see the needle move when I drop the magnet into the middle of this coil of wire. See, it turns out that electricity and magnetism are very closely related. They are really two sides of the same coin. So we can use magnets to produce electricity. If we make a magnetic field, take a magnetic field, and there's a pretty strong magnetic field around this thing because it's a strong magnet, and we make that magnetic field pass through wires, then the magnetic field will push the electrons that are in that wire, and it makes a flow of electrons. That is a electric current. Now, when the magnet is not moving, there's no voltage, there's no current. But as soon as I move the magnet, move that magnetic field through the wires, well, then there is a current flowing through the wires. Okay, so we can use a magnetic field to make electricity. Now, you may also have experienced this on your own. You can make an electromagnet out of a battery and a wire and a nail. And if you just wrap wire around a nail and run electric current through it, battery through it, it makes an electromagnet, and you can pick up paper clips and things with it. Actually, you can pick up really, really heavy things if you have enough electricity and enough wire. But so you can use electricity to make a magnet, and you can use a magnet to make electricity. They're two sides of the same coin, like I said. All right, so that method of using a moving magnetic field around wires, that's how we make all of our electricity. The electricity comes through your wall socket and stuff. I guess technically we make some electricity with batteries, and solar panels actually work a little bit differently. But most of the electricity that we use, like from nuclear power plants and coal burning plants, gas burning plants, diesel generators, the generator that's in your car that runs all the electricity in your car.
want you to come on down.
Okay. All that electricity is made by moving magnetic fields across wires and pushing the electrons in those wires. So we can do that ourselves with well, I can show it here, with a hand generator. So inside here, you can kind of see it through the plastic. There's a kind of a metal cylinder there. And inside that metal cylinder, there's a set of magnets and a coil of wire. And when we turn this handle, we are spinning those magnets, and that's going to make an electric current. So I have this thing hooked up to a little light bulb. Let's see if it actually shows up here in this format. Yep, there it goes. You can see it lighting up. There it is. Lay it on its side so it shows up better that way. There we go. Yep. Okay, so by turning the crank, I'm spinning the magnets and pushing the electrons through the wire and making electric current, which lights up the light bulb. Now, you may be wondering, well, what happens if you don't hook it up to the light bulb? Like if you unscrew the light bulb or just disconnect the wires from it? Well, this you're going to have to take my word for it because you're not here to feel it. But it's much, much easier to turn. It's much easier to turn if it's not being asked to light a light bulb. Now, when we do hook it up, and what we do in class is we have one person connect the wires while the other person is turning the crank. And as soon as you touch finish the connection so that the light bulb's going to light up, suddenly the handle gets much harder to turn. Okay, so the reason that it gets hard to turn is because the light bulb is putting out energy. It's shining light into the room and it's getting hot. If you touch the light bulb, it starts to get warm. So that light bulb is shining energy into the room, and that energy has to come from somewhere because energy is always conserved. It just doesn't appear and go out into the room. It has to come from someplace, and the place it comes from is me. I have to do work to turn this crank. And the more work that I'm trying to do with the electricity, the harder it is to turn the handle. Okay, so one light bulb, I can definitely feel the difference. If I hook up a second light bulb to this, see if I can do that. I'm going to hook up a second light bulb here. So now there's two. So we have a wire going to this light bulb, and then it goes through this to this light bulb, and then the other end of the generator is here. I can light both bulbs, but it's even harder to turn because I'm sending more energy out into the room. Okay. Now, I'm going to show one more thing here, and that is, what if I get a second generator? What if I have two generators? What happens if I connect them to each other? Okay, so I'm going to take the wires from one generator and hook it up to the wires from the other generator. Usually in class, some students just try this and say, hey, wow, look at this. So I have the wires from the generators hooked up to each other. And this generator is connected to this generator. And watch what happens. I'm just going to hold this one with my hand and turn this crank, and look what happens. All right, I'm turning this handle, but that handle is rotating. So what's happening is I'm sending electricity from this generator. It goes through the wires to this generator, and somehow it makes this handle turn. But remember, electricity and magnetism are two sides of the same coin. I can spin magnets to make electricity, and it follows that I can use electricity to spin magnets. So normally when we have electricity flowing into something and it makes it spin, like an electric fan or a hairdryer or a blender, we call that a motor. We put electricity into this device and it makes it turn. So that's what this is. This is now a motor. I turn this handle and this one goes in response because the electricity I'm making is making this one go. So it turns out that a generator and a motor is actually the same thing. If you turn the handle to make electricity, it's a generator. If you send in electricity to make the handle turn, it's a motor, but it's the same device. Now, I want to point out one other thing here. Look how fast I am turning the handle, and look how fast the other handle turns. All right? You can see that this handle is not turning as fast as the handle that I myself am turning. And if I go the other way with this one, you can see that the handle I'm turning it faster than the handle is turning at the other end. Okay, so that means that some energy is being lost. When I had the generators hooked up to a light bulb, it heated up the light bulb. It made heat and light and shined energy into the room. Well, I have to send energy through this wire. And really, a wire is just like a big light bulb filament. So I'm actually heating up this wire. I'm losing some energy when I force the electricity to go through this wire. And all the energy that I put in with this handle, it doesn't all get to this handle. So it can't do as much work as I put in. Some energy is lost along the way. Now, the total amount of energy is still the same. I put in a certain amount of energy. Some comes out in the motor at the other end, and the rest just heats up the wire. So the energy all goes somewhere. It comes out of the system somewhere, but it doesn't all get where I want it to go. All right, so what does all this have to do with conservation of energy? All of these things that we've seen show that the energy we put in, if we want anything to happen down here, we have to put some energy into it. And the energy we put in doesn't all get where we want it to go because the energy is conserved and it's used up in little places along the way. Let me show one last thing here. What happens if we put a light bulb into this circuit between the two generators or between the generator and the motor? Here we go. All right. I can light up the light bulb still, but this handle over here moves hardly at all. If I turn it really hard, sometimes I can get it to go. I guess it's not participating. There it goes. Okay, so I'm turning this one really fast, and the other one barely moves, if it moves at all, because the light bulb is using up all the energy. Before the energy can get to the motor, it's pretty much all used up by the light bulb. It's greedy and it uses it all. But when I take out the light bulb, take it out of the circuit, now the other handle goes fine because there's more energy for it. Okay, that's it. What we saw was that we saw incidentally how we make electricity, which is by spinning magnets around wires or wires around magnets to force the electrons through the wires. And we saw that it's harder to crank a hand crank generator if we're asking the electricity to do more work. So just spinning it without any electrical load is easy to turn the handle. If we then hook it up to a light bulb, it gets harder to turn. If we hook it up to more light bulbs, so we're sending out more light and heat into the room, it's even harder to turn because the energy that comes out has to come from somewhere, and that somewhere is us. This means that conservation energy is conserved. The energy that's in the system to light up light bulbs and to spin motors has to come from us. Now, the same thing is true for large scale generators that like run our towns and run our school. Somewhere there is a generator turning. There's some steam turbine or a water wheel or something which is turning a generator right now at this minute, making the electricity that comes through our electric circuits. And as soon as that generator stops, the electricity stops instantly. Also means that electricity is really a way to carry energy. It's a way to move energy from place to place. It really isn't an energy source by itself. You have to put work into a generator to make the electricity. The electricity just carries it to some place. Okay, so obviously it's better to have done this by hand to see it with your own eyes and discover this stuff on your own, but this is the best we can do. Anyway, so you guys did the PhET simulation last time. If you did not, then finish it this time and turn it in because that's an assignment that you have to do. The students who were in class earlier this week on Monday, they will also be doing that PhET simulation. So everybody gets to do it. And now you've gotten to see the classroom demonstrations as well. Okay, thank you for your time, and we will see you next time.